We're joined by Panthers GM Dan Morgan here at the Combine in Indy. I want to take you back when you were coming out of Miami. What's your memory of being at the Combine?
Yeah, so I didn't work out at the Combine, so I only did interviews. But the one memory, is pretty vivid in my mind is, there used to be the old train station here. So in the train station back then, the scouts would basically grab and try to fight over you. And there was one guy that grabbed me that nobody fought with, and it was Sam Mills.
Wow.
Yeah. So Sam grabbed me, and he's like, "Hey, young man," he's like, "I want to talk to you for a second." So he just pulled me to the side and was talking to me, and yeah, that's my biggest memory.
What do you remember from that conversation?
Honestly, I don't remember what the conversation was, but I knew exactly who it was because I've always been a football fan. So I knew who Sam was, but I honestly I wasn't sure that Carolina even liked me or not because I didn't go in the actual official interview room. So I just talked to Sam, and I think Sam liked me, and I think that carried a lot of weight.
And you ended up a Panther and
Yep.
a fine good one. We get here to Indy, underwear Olympics, right? We can get enamored by how fast a guy is and what you see in certain drills. As a GM and somebody who played the game, how do you balance what you see here versus what the film tells you?
Yeah, I think first of all, being here and getting to talk to the guys, even if it's for 20 minutes, you get to talk to some of these guys and just kind of see them face to face for the first time. So that's actually really cool, just to kind of get to know them a little bit. And then, going back to your original question, it's they're out there, they're moving around, they're running their 40s, that's all good. But you always got to go back to the tape and what you saw on the tape because this is only going to take you so far. So this is really just kind of the checks and balances. I think if anything looks out of whack, whether it's a 40 time or a 3-cone or a shuttle, yeah, maybe I'll check up on that and maybe we'll watch the tape a little more on that or, ask the analytics guy about it and hey, what do you think of this? Did this show up in the data? So
you're trying to cross-reference the tape, basically.
Yeah,
hey, we
exactly.
see this. He looks fast on film.
Yep.
Let's make sure it checks out.
Yeah, exactly. And it could be the other way, too, to where a guy ran really fast, but he didn't play fast. So why didn't he play fast? So, there's all things that you have to figure out. It's like putting a puzzle together.
You put the puzzle together last year during the draft. What was the lesson that you kind of took away from your first draft as a GM a year from now?
I think, we're happy with the guys that we drafted. Getting, a Jatavian Sanders in the 4th round, being able to trade up and get Xavier, who we think has a bright future. He's going to continue to develop. I think is really no lessons learned other than, I just feel like each year, if I'm not getting better at it, then there's a problem. So I'm just going to continue to keep getting better, keep dependent on my team because we have a really good team of scouts, analytics people. We all work together. We all collaborate along with the coaches as well. So it's a process, and it's a lot of fun.
It's also, as you know, an inexact science. So are there certain indicators, what are they, that say, yeah, this guy can be successful in the NFL?
I really think everything boils down to, does a guy love the game of football? And I think, through the interview process, that's what you try to figure out. And does that match up with the tape? If I see a guy out there and he's kind of dogging it to the ball every other play, that doesn't really show me you love football. So, we look for guys that, are competitors. They want to compete at every turn. They love the game. They love the process. And this is just all part of the evaluation process that we'll continue to, keep chipping away at through the spring.
And as you chip away and as you get to the draft, you've got the 8th pick. Not getting into specific prospects. I know it's early for that. But how do you balance need, scheme fit versus he's the best available player and we'll figure it out. Let's just get him in the building.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at the draft board and, we're at 8 and, there's a really good player that we have, maybe he's not at a position of need, I think you take that player. But if all things are even, you take the position of need. So that's the philosophy that we're going to run by.
I know you're not in the market for a quarterback, but the market for the quarterback could determine what you do with that pick. What would entice you to potentially move off 8, whether it's up or down?
Yeah, I think regardless if it was for a quarterback or not, like we're going to leave our options open. So if somebody wants to come up at 8 and they give us the compensation that we're happy with, then feel free to move off that pick if it made sense for us and the organization. So yeah, we're going to be open to all different types of scenarios, and we're going to be ready for all types of different scenarios.
I know you've said, hey, emphasis on the defense this offseason. What position group specifically is the biggest point of emphasis?
I mean, I think you go interior D-line, you go outside linebacker, you go safety. And then obviously we need another corner. So there's a lot of holes to fill. It's not going to happen overnight, but, I think as we move through free agency, we move through the draft, I think things will start to kind of come together and the puzzle will start coming together, a little clearer.
So on some of these specific positions, I just want to ask you for traits that you look for besides desire and love for the game when you're watching film.
Yep.
Let's start with interior D-line.
Yeah, interior D-line, obviously you have to have the height, you have to have the length, and then you got to be violent at the point of attack. And you got to have the strength, to stack guys up. We like to call it play gap and a half, even 2 gap. So we want our guys to be strong, physical, and obviously have that prototype measurables, the height and length as well.
Edge.
Edge, you got to be explosive. You got to be athletic. You got to be explosive. You got to be able to bend and get off the ball. And, those are the type of athletes that win, and they win consistently in this league. So that's what we'll be focusing on.
Your old position, interior linebacker.
Yeah, I think linebacker, first and foremost, you got to be smart. You got to have instincts at that position, and then you got to be able to run and close, and then you got to be able to hit, and you got to be able to finish tackles. And then on the other side of that is you got to be able to cover. So, and that's where, the value of these linebackers, if you can cover, if you can blitz, and you can make an impact in the pass game, that's where, the value skyrockets for those guys.
You don't have to sub off. You can leave them on.
Yep.
The safety position in the NFL has changed, and you can't do some of the things you used to be able to do. So what do you look for from a safety these days?
Safeties, again, like in our scheme, every scheme's different, but I think in our scheme on the defensive side with the safeties, like you first and foremost, you have to be smart. You have to be a really good communicator. If you're not a good communicator and you're not smart back there, you're not going to last long in our defense. So we really put a premium on those 2 things.
I know you did a lot to address the offense last year, but if there was a certain spot on offense where you would like to add, where would that be?
Yeah, I think, it's really just adding playmakers, but, we have to add another tight end. We have to add another wide out, another running back. So there is a lot of holes to fill on this roster, and we'll address that, whether free agency or draft, and we're just going to sign and draft the best players.
You have preached patience and discipline. You got more money now with the salary cap increase. How does that impact the offseason plan?
I don't think it changes that much. Brant does a great job. So, like, being able to work hand-to-hand with Brant, we're always communicating. We're always talking. I'm always aware of the cap. He's always aware of, what players that I like from my standpoint. So, I think it really doesn't change that much, for what we'll be able to do. We'll have a plan. We'll have a solid plan in place, for both free agency and the draft, and we'll attack it.
The last thing, Dan, there's an element here where there's a lot of information disseminated, and there's gossip and rumors and misinformation too sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
How much of you and your group and the front office being here is about just gathering intel? What's this team doing? The teams that are picking ahead of us, the teams that are picking behind us. How much of it is just kind of gathering intel so you have an idea of how some of these things could shake out in free agency, in the draft?
Yeah, we always have a saying, gather information, don't give information. So, our guys know, like, hey, let's gather, let's try to figure out, like, who teams are attacking in free agency, where are they attacking in the draft. Like, we're always trying to find information from everybody, whether it's agents, whether it's scouts around the league. We're going to try to dig, and we're going to try to be, aggressive in that sense. So, yeah.
So if I ask you, hey, so what's the plan? You're not even going to go there.
No, no, definitely not. Definitely not. We're gonna protect that information.
Dan's going to protect that information.
Yeah.
We'll have to get the reveal once free agency's over and then once we get into the draft. Panthers GM Dan Morgan.